Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Hello, welcome. Tonight is the 9th meeting of the advisory team on government policies and practices. Can't believe it. We've had 9 meetings. Tonight, you've seen the agenda, and hopefully most of you have received the email that Dominique can't come, but she does want to say a farewell to all of you in the very near future. So we will arrange that. But we're going to do a welcome and check-in. We're going to review the racial equity plan draft and go through some community engagement ideas. And then we'll summarize, and then I'm looking for some ideas that you might want to bring forward for the next meeting. So the one person tonight that's not able to join us is Yadira, but I think everybody else is here. She had to fill in at work, so we will continue. I'm just looking at everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. Everybody else is here. Let's do a check-in. Does everybody want to do, for some people this might be your favorite and some people might hate it. So we're going to still do it. Maybe your name, your first name, one word, how you're feeling tonight, and one thing you're looking forward to when this weather finally gets warmer. And I'm going to pick on Corey K because on my screen, you're right smack in the middle of my screen. So.
All right, here we are. How am I feeling today? I will say I'm today.
You're what? I didn't hear it.
I'm saying optimistic.
Oh, optimistic. Okay, good deal. And one thing you're looking forward to in spring?
Being outside and hopefully getting to meet in person instead of doing all this Zoom or WebEx stuff. So it'll be nice to see people and actually get to just sit down and have a
Sounds
at
good.
some point.
Sounds good. Sam, you want to go next? Normally we would just go around this table, but since we're all kind of scattered in these Hollywood squares, I'm just picking.
I don't have a word for what I'm feeling.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't. It's a mixed emotions, I suppose. But this spring, I'm excited or looking forward to being outside and finally 5 years later hopefully planning our honeymoon. So
Oh my gosh.
that's what I'm looking forward to. Get away from all the chaos and just relax.
Sounds good. Okay. Sarah?
Hi, I feel fine. And a blank word. I am looking forward to cool nights to sit out by a fire or on the porch.
Nice.
Outside.
Good. Yay. Michael, where are you? There you
I'm feeling drained,
are.
as of late. What I'm looking forward to, I mean, it's pretty obvious with me. I'm looking forward to getting out in the yard and barbecuing. So,
Sounds good. Alexis?
Oh, hold on. Okay, so it's one thing. Okay, what was it? I'm sorry. I was doing
One word you're feeling tonight, and something you're looking forward to in the spring.
I am feeling upset, and I just want to say rest in peace to Dante, right? And I'm keeping his family in my thoughts, and that's just a really sad situation. So I'm really feeling upset tonight, and it also doesn't help that I'm pregnant, so I'm really emotional. So that's that. And one thing that I'm looking forward to this spring, I don't know because I'm just gonna be getting bigger during the summer. So there's I mean, there's a lot to look forward to in the summer, but like, 'cause I just want to be done already.
Okay. Well, we're glad you're here. Super glad you're here. And you can click on and off as you want. So we're just really glad that you're still making time for this. So thank you for being here. Yeah. Let's see, who do I have? Who do I have? Steve, Blaine.
Hello, everybody. Congratulations, Alexis, on that also, on that news. I guess I'm feeling sore now. I had elbow surgery yesterday, so I'm a little under the weather. But as far as this spring, I'm like everybody else. I'm anxious to get outside and hopefully have everybody get rid of their masks and we get semi-normal.
Okay, good, thanks. Cholaway, you're next. I can't hear you.
I am unmuted,
There.
but
Yep. no, you're good.
hi. Yeah, so I had to relocate a little bit. My internet was acting up. So hopefully I can do this. Again, Cholwe Walker Steele. And how am I how am I feeling today? I don't know. I was kind of anxious to come back to the meeting until 3 or 4 days ago. And was it 3 days ago? And I said, oh my gosh, what are we doing? So I'm kind of, I don't know how to feel. Numb, fearful, hence excited to come back to this meeting. And for this spring, I just would love to meet all of you again and be in an outside place so that my internet doesn't break up and you can hear my lovely accent well.
That sounds good. Thank you. Liz, how about you?
Hi, I think for the first time in my 55 years, I am feeling brave. I am not going to hold back any longer, and I don't care. And I feel supported in being brave with those that I need the support from. What I'm looking most forward to this spring, is my youngest got a job at the lake. So lots and lots of trips to the lake because he will be working Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I will have lots of time at the lake.
Nice.
So Lake Okoboji is what I'm looking forward to.
Thanks. And Doug, I think, Doug, are you here? You are here. Are you here?
Yep. Yeah, I gotta
okay.
Run to work here. That's what I'm on video on, so I'll be in and out as long as my internet connection lasts. But anyway, feeling busy. Spring's just a busy time for me, and the spring one I'm looking forward to. Getting outside, getting out these four walls, and taking masks off, meeting in person. So nothing that hasn't been said.
Sounds good. And Thomas.
Hey, sorry I'm not on camera, but how's everybody doing? And I hope everybody's doing well since last time we all spoke. Kind of tired this evening, just been a pretty busy week, and I'm feeling determined and inspired, and looking forward to being on stages around the country here this summer, hopefully, if we can ever get back to live performances.
Great. Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think I got to everybody. Did I? Okay. Okay, good. Okay. So let's dive right in because I'm sure there is a lot to talk about. You received the racial equity plan draft, and since our last meeting, as you know, we're pivoting away for a while. We don't know how long yet, specifically from policing. We'll get back to public safety for sure. But right now, this is sort of going kind of up further, and I know this group has talked about that. You know, policing and public safety is one piece of this puzzle, but it's definitely a whole puzzle. And so this racial equity plan that has been drafted, you guys are the first to see it and to I mean, really in this form of looking at it, this is in no way, I mean, this is really a rough draft. So this is something I'm hoping to we'll toss out some questions, but I'm here to listen, to learn, to see what you guys think needs to be done, what needs more work, all of that stuff. And it will come back to you because this is sort of going on a, we'll go to the Human Rights Commission with this plan. We'll go to other boards and commissions, community groups, community folks, and kind of checking in with you along the way as well. So I just wanted to preface it by saying the plan, and for those who might be watching and haven't looked, this plan is on our website. The draft will stay there, and you know, it'll always be a working document. It's really divided the way it is positioned right now. It's divided into two parts. One is really all the beginning all of the leading up to documents. So things like the city's commitment and the city's acknowledgement, definitions, data, timeline. All of those things still need to be filled in, especially the data. We're doing work right now to gather that data from the U.S. Census and from the local, from a local perspective as well. The second half is really the plan itself. And there are those three, right now, as it stands, there are 3 long-term goals, 7 strategies, and a number of different actions. All of that can change. This is literally to put some things on paper and to get this conversation started. Just so that people who might be watching this at home, I'm just going to, and then I'll be able to be quiet. I'm going to read just a few of these questions so everybody knows these are the things that you guys were kind of thinking of as you were looking through this. Things like, what changes would you make in this plan so that it would better reflect the results that you want to see happen? What parts do you think are most important and should definitely stay in the plan? What specific goals, strategies, and actions would you add or delete or edit so that it fits specifically with what you believe is really important in our community? And also, what is most important to address the City of Red Wing as an organization? Are there parts of the plan that seem confusing in any way? Are there parts that you feel are misleading or misrepresent something? Is the plan missing something you think is important? What is your general impression of the plan? And how would you, at the end, we can get into how would you suggest that we get this draft out to individuals in our community to get their opinions and feedback, especially folks who may not normally be interested in looking at a government plan. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'm really interested in your thoughts on both the first half and the second half. The second half obviously has all the details associated, but let's just start with the first half. And instead of going page by page, I guess I would just, hoping that folks have been able to look through it, I would just toss out some general thoughts. I don't really want to lead it too much. I probably would do this differently if we were all in a room together. But since we're not, I'm going to open it up first for just some general thoughts. And Liz has got her hand up.
Well, just because Mayor Wilson said he might not be able to stay real long, I do have just an opening question for him, if that's allowed.
Mayor, are you okay with that? Yes. Okay. Okay.
I would like to know your stance on racism in Red Wing and three thoughts or facts to support your stance on racism within the community of Red Wing. Because this plan talks about racial justice and elected officials, and you're the only elected official here, so I'd like to know your views on it.
Okay, well, and also I just want to lay it that we didn't. That's great, and the mayor's going to answer, but we also want to make sure that you all have time to, talk about the plan, because I believe that our elected officials will definitely be able to weigh in this at a later date too, right, Mike?
Right, he's the only elected official here, so since he's here, I'd like to know, since it talks so much about racial justice and elected officials.
Yeah. Okay. And I'd like to look it over too, because I don't even have an agenda for tonight's meeting to really go over, and I don't know, is this the time and place you want to go through it now? I wasn't really up for it, but.
As the head elected official in our community, I think it speaks volumes of what your view is on racism in the city that you administer over.
Right. And it's the big issue. There's no getting around it. We got to figure out what's the best route to go.
I didn't ask your issue, I asked your opinion on it.
And I also think that I think, I get it, Liz, that you do want to hear this, and I totally agree that the mayor should be able to answer this, and we'll give him a couple minutes. But then after that, I'm sure that once Mike goes through the plan and goes through some of the questions, he would either be willing to come back to speak to the group or have one-on-one conversations. I don't know how much the mayor's actually been able to look at this plan. So I just wanted to lay that out there, that I think Mike came to listen, and we are not taking questions from other people in the community at this time either. It's for you guys to all talk. But Mike, I'll throw it to you for one more minute and then we'll get into it.
Well, I don't know what you want to talk about it at this point tonight. I mean, I guess I wasn't really prepared to come up and go over my thoughts on everything at this point in time. So that's why I'm just listening tonight to get your input and see which direction we're going, because I really haven't looked over the documents.
I'm just asking your personal opinion. Nothing with, it talks about elected officials in here, and you are our head elected official. So your opinion is your opinion. There shouldn't be any preparation in your opinion. That's what you own. You own yourself.
Right. My opinion on racism and Red Wing, is that the answer you want?
That's what I'm asking. What is your opinion on racism in Red Wing?
Well, we know it's an issue and it has to be addressed. We know that for a fact. There's 11% in this county of different people of color, and so yes, it's got to be addressed. It's a factor in there. So that's what I'm looking for, is input. What's the best way to address it? And that's the road we're going to go down. And that's why we have these advisory group and people to work on it. So we all get together. And what's the best way to go? What's the best way to attack it? You know what I'm saying? Just the best, we want the best outcome for everybody. And I think it's very important that we get the input. And that's what's good about this advisory board. We get some feedback, get some direction. I myself, I know there's a problem here. Everybody in town knows there's a problem. So we got to figure out a way to make it best so we can all work together. Like I say in the past, I'm a team player and we all got to work together. And you can't hate one group from another either, because that just makes it worse. So I want good, solid input, good ideas brought forward so we can work on the issue and resolve it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So let's go through the first half before we get into some of the details. This is wide open. You know, the first few pages after the table of contents, it's Red Wing's vision, mission, and how we'll act. Those are statements that are in the 2040 plan. Those are statements in Red Wing's strategic plan. So those are things that we have written down and said that we will adhere to. So that's how this opens. I'll just briefly mention pages 4 and 5, that commitment to racial justice. That was something that was written earlier, probably 3 years ago, as when the city had a team that worked with the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. That was a small team of people who went up through a 2-year training. And this was a statement that came from part of that training. That can be changed, edited. It's been on our website. But I just thought it's beneficial for people to at least see the background and what the city has adhered to or agreed to in the past. So that is what that commitment to racial justice statement is on that page. And then the following, page 5, that acknowledgement of systemic racism is something that's on the policies and practices page right now. It's been in multiple council reports. The acknowledgement of the Mdewakanton Dakota. This came from a statement that the city of Red Wing worked with Prairie Island Indian community, and this statement will be going up in a week from tomorrow at the base of Heminicha, Barn Bluff. This is an acknowledgement statement specific to the bluff. This has been tweaked very slightly to talk about Red Wing as a whole. but this was language that was agreed upon by Prairie Island and Red Wing working together. Like I said, though, that was specific to Hemanicha, and so this has been tweaked a little bit for the community. And then we get into some of the definitions. So I'll stop there and see if there are any comments, questions, what you think should be different, you know, and we'll revisit too, but I'll be quiet. Michael.
One of my first questions would be is how many people of color were involved in the writing of this racial equity plan?
Right. All of this was put forth. Nobody of color wrote this. So what I want is to say, if we would like, you know, a commitment to racial justice, could maybe a group work on that? This is what was there, but we need to have something for the future. So I would love it if folks would maybe volunteer to kind of put something together that's more reflective of what should be for Red Wing today. 0 is your answer, is the answer, Michael. Absolutely 0. But I want to kind of pull back on that. The strategies later on, those did come from some conversations with the Human Rights Commission, with some residents. So some of those came, but this first part is really based on, other than the acknowledgement to the Mwokaton Dakota, yeah, the rest of this beginning piece was just put forward from language we already have. But did you have thoughts on that, Michael, like on a group maybe that could come together to put something forward?
I mean, I don't know how to put this. I want to say it as correctly as possible and respectfully.
You don't have
as
to.
possible.
You don't have to.
Well, if that's the case, then I mean, you're basically saying this thing is written by a bunch of white people.
And it was.
We're trying to tell a bunch of people of color how they should act.
Yep.
I mean, correct. I mean, I don't want people to get the idea, oh, Michael can't stand white people this, white people that. That's not the issue. My issue is a bunch of white people trying to tell a bunch of black folks how they should act or what racial inequality is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's where my confusion lays.
Mm-hmm. Can you follow that just a little bit, Michael, so that is it both? I mean, is it so that commitment to racial justice, would that be something where you're saying just throw that out and have some folks come together? Do you like the idea of having a statement or something at the beginning?
Well, I mean, we do need a commitment to racial justice, not just a bunch of white people saying it.
Hmm.
We need more than just, we need more voices.
Yep. Yep, that's what this is. That's what this is. This is, we are literally at the starting line. We've had a plan. It kind of looked like this. We've had that for a little bit, but we really weren't paying too much attention. So we're putting in a different format so we can get started. So thanks. That's very helpful. Sam.
I just wanted to second Michael's thought on that. My first thought when going over this was who wrote it, where'd it come from, whose ideas were these, because I think that's kind of important where we're headed with where we've been and where we're headed is obviously what we've done in the past has not worked. Yeah. So if this stuff is from the past, maybe we need to definitely dig deep into making corrections or
Yep.
any changes. So that was who did write this or who wrote it up?
I wrote it based on a group that the Government Alliance is, that was 5 people, and it was at that time you had to work with city government. So it was engineering and public works and myself and our training officer, police officer, who's no longer here. That was Scott Kokendorfer. So we went through a training and talked about the things that we, should be in it. But again, very clearly, that was a government program, you know, that was government employees. So it
No,
was not a community statement.
I appreciate that it was done and that it's there and it looks, you know, it doesn't have too many huge things that are like, whoa. But I was just curious because I think that might hit it right where we needed to with the comment about the equity, and no person of color has put their input in on it. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Right. And that's why we're here. You know what I mean? And we're going to have multiple, not just this team, not just the Human Rights Commission, not just other community boards, but lots of people. I mean, this is not something that we hope to have done in a month. I'm hoping by fall. I'd like to shop this around all summer. I'd like help from the advisory team, if possible. So, you know, we can think about that at the end. How do we get the most people to have input into this plan? This is simply putting things on paper. And you may even say, let's throw out, you might, you know, let's throw out this draft. And then what should we put in front of people this summer? It could be open-ended. We've done that before too, for the 2040 plan, just starting from complete scratch. So this is good to hear. Cholwe, you had something?
Yes, I also kind of wondered how we came up with this and who wrote it. And I heard the answer, but I also wanted to find out, did you say part of this was in the 2040 plan, which was done like 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, some of the, you know, like the mission, the vision, some of those things were in the 2040 plan. So that was, you know, we went out into the community in 2017 and 18 during those 2 years, like about 20 months. And then it was approved in February of 2019. So really, it has been approved for about 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. And I do appreciate that something was started and something was talked about. Again, I think we have to go back to say, since then, what have we done? Of course, we formed the advisory team, which is, don't know what we're doing. We're here, but is there anything which has been done from, have we done anything else? Have we started anything else? Because again, would like for us to sit down and go through this and again, hear stories and involve people. Oh, we are talking about here. I think people, this might not be entirely wrong. And I'm not saying anything is wrong, but I'm just saying, I think people are also tired of being written for and talked for. And, oh, I think a Black person needs this. Let's do this. I think what I'm hearing is people are needing involvement, want to be involved in making plans for their future and their children's grandchildren's future. I think that's what I'm hearing from the two people who just spoke before me. But I also think if we sit down and try to go through this and perfect it to the normal, we'll never do anything. And I think simultaneously, as we are working on this, we got to start nipping things in the back, because I think that, excuse me, my language, but I think there's a lot of things the advisory team should be doing and we should be doing. I think we should be looking into this, but simultaneously, I think we should start working on things so that when we sit in 2012 or 2032, we have something planned towards the 2040 plan. Because if we keep not implementing what we are talking about, I do understand that people think we are very well paid for this job, which I don't think anybody who is here came here for the pay. I think we would like to implement things. So as we work on this, we should be implementing things. I'm just saying, it's just a lot of writing and reading, and we gotta do something. While we are thinking and completing this, they're killing each other in Brooklyn Center and everywhere else. So I know we can get into that, but there's a lot of other things we should be doing. So I'm glad to be back in this meeting because I had just had to say this, it's none of this, but I think we should be ready to do some work. I don't think we have time to start playing around and waiting around. Our schools, our history, health, economic, there's a lot of things we should be working on. So I know this needs work, and I'm not a good proofreader or finding out, but I know what I want as a Black person. And I know what I want for my children who may be Indian or Black or whatever name they are given. So I appreciate the start, but we should not start and pack it. We should work it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Cholwe.
I just chime in real quick. I just, I think, the effort was appreciated for, the plan and stuff. But in order to understand, I guess you have to live it, as a Black person. And, to fix anything, you have to know what the problem is. So I just suggest even, the effort, like I said, is appreciated, but maybe, just revise it, with inclusion. I think that'll be a good thing a good place to start.
Thank you. Steve.
Let me know if I'm wrong, but I take this, it says it's a draft. That's what a draft is. It's a beginning. It's just like when we had our first meeting. We didn't know where we were going. We had a basic plan and we worked on that and changed things and altered things. So now it's my understanding that we're supposed to go through this draft and add and subtract and change, and whether it's the whole thing or a small portion of it. I look at it, we've wasted a half hour when we should be going through this and seeing what do we need to change? What do we need to work on here? To me, this is what we're supposed to be doing, is going through this. This is not what's going to be pushed through and we're going to use this for Red Wing's racial equity plan. This is something that we've got to go through, and now we're going to give our input. Unless I'm reading this completely wrong.
Yeah, no, I just think what folks have said, what I've heard is that, maybe instead of, so that people know this can be radically done from scratch as well, because using people of color who actually, the whole thing can look and feel and, be different. But yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks for that. Yeah. Liz. And then some folks we haven't heard from.
On that note, a couple of the things that kind of jumped out to me was the bullet point 2 on page 5, where it says when we have fairness and justice for all. Just a suggestion would be to change fairness to equity, because I mean, fair is giving everybody $5 when somebody really needs 7 to make it. And then on page 8, I love the working towards racial justice strip. I've just recently learned there's a 4th one where the fence is torn completely down and it's just called progress, or something like that. So that there's no fence. And then I'm wondering, under the common language, I think it's great that those are there, but maybe under each one, just list an example, because they are easily sometimes accidentally intermixed or used inappropriately. So if they were just maybe like an example, kind of like 2, 2, and 2 when you use them. So just a couple suggestions that I had when I was reading through it the other day.
Thank you. Let's see. Sarah or Doug or Alexis or Corey. And you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. I'll wait for a minute.
Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm on the road, so I didn't know if I was still getting service.
Oh, is this Doug? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't see anything in the first half that was super glaring, I guess, to be my opinion. It sounds very governmental and appropriate for, an entity like the city of Red Wing to put out there. It was a good point on the fairness piece. That was one thing that made sense there to change that maybe to equity. the second half, I got other thoughts, but I'll wait to get to that.
Okay. Thank you. I think I might want to, well, let me wait. Is anybody else not spoken that wants to?
I just think, I'm still kind of in the point where I want to listen a little bit more. Overall, as an aspirational piece, I think it kind of hits, at least in my mind, the things that I would like to see in a community. That's from my perspective. So I want to listen and get more perspective yet. But I like the intent behind it. Now it's just the, how we go about that to make sure that it makes sense to everybody and is inclusive, doesn't just feel inclusive, but it truly is something that works for everybody. So.
So before we leave the first part of it, I'm wondering, like, maybe Michael or Cholwe, Sam, some of the other folks. Oh, Sarah, did you want to say something? I don't think you did.
I'm really hesitant to say what I was thinking when I read this because I feel like it will throw just a wrench into things, but
there's no wrench, there's no plan. It's all up for grabs, so throw it in.
When I was reading it, it made me think about the other forms of oppression and other groups in the community that don't feel welcome here, specifically our LGBTQ community. And is there going to be multiple plans, or could this be an equity plan where people who are experiencing hate crimes based on their sexual orientation and gender feel like the city is doing something for them too? Again, feels like a wrench, but just a thought that went through my head as I was reading.
It's a good question. So 2 thoughts. I think that's something to consider. And I'm wondering from Cholwe, Sam, and Michael, who spoke first, if you have thoughts on, just like thoughts on what would you do going forward to make sure, we'll get into the details of the second too, because it's all, but to make sure that this is obviously inclusive from the very beginning. Just curious about, would it be gathering people together to talk about it? If you had a next step for this beginning half, what are your thoughts on that? Michael?
I think figuring out some way of creating some type of support system, you know what I mean, where people feel comfortable enough to, we're in a group of people and we're talking and they feel comfortable to express themselves and let off whatever's weighing heavy on their chest at the moment. And I mean, I might have to kind of piggyback off what Sarah said a little bit. I might be throwing a wrench in this next statement I'm going to make, but I mean, I said what I said. The only group I've noticed that really ain't got that much of a support system is people of color. Like, I'm sorry, nothing against, LGBTQ. Everywhere I turn, there's a support system of some sort for them. I mean, everybody down the line, Hispanic outreach. I mean, but I don't see nothing in support for people of color. And my main focus is the youth. I'm reading through this racial equity plan and I hear nothing about the kids. I mean, they are our future. So that's create some type of support system, I guess, is the best way I can put it. And the reason why I say that is because I've talked to a lot of people. I mean, my ears are to the streets here in town, and I've talked to a lot of people who don't voice their opinions, say like all of us here, because they're afraid or they don't know how to. And it's like, I mean, they need a support system. You know, I've noticed that there are more people of color who are using their voice in a positive outreach type of way, which I'm fully supportive of, but we need more. It's that old saying, the more the merrier.
Okay. Good. Okay. Cholwe or Sam, do you have any follow-up to that? Yep, Cholwe.
Yeah, so what I was saying is I like the idea that we have this started. What I was saying is we need to work, whether we are correcting it, whether we are involving people to write it. I didn't read it in between the lines. I'm looking at what is the goal of this. We mean to do this, let's do it. If we're gonna read it through, critique it, change it, make it better, and give us a go ahead to do something, let's do it. And I said, I do appreciate that it's good to have a guideline so that we know what to work with. It's always good to have something to work with. And this is good. And again, to piggyback on Michael, I think education, we keep talking community. I think we do need to involve a lot of the school situation because that's where a lot of this starts. So yes, I think we can maybe add up to this, but I think it is good. And I was actually impressed to see this, but my question was there anything done since it was written three years ago? That's what I was saying, but I'm happy we have this. I am.
Yeah. I should clarify, Cholwe, that this one right here was really part of this was completely updated in June. So I might have been, it was just some of the language from the first half, you know, that first half, just the language was older, but the strategies and actions and long-term goals, especially the strategies and actions were from June. And then some things were just updated as I put this together last week, taking into account some of the things that the Human Rights Commission and others, you know, like Michael, just to like that one, I really kind of from you heard you saying about, you know, BIPOC youth. And so that long-term goal, it is just a line, but it's one line that says this includes a high priority on BIPOC individuals, especially youth, really looking through the lens of how does this help our young people? I mean, most of you have spoken about how young people are so important. So again, I don't point that out to say, see, that's in here. I just wanted you to know that this is sort of a, like Cholwe said, this is literally a scaffolding to look at. So that's been said a million times. We can talk about how that, and maybe that's even in small groups. It may be that you get together with people that you know, your family, your friends, people that you would be willing to spend some time with and say, you don't even have to show them this, but just say, what would you want? You know, like Michael said, we need more people, whether that's through support, funding, through grant, however, we need support for BIPOC individuals to have support. That's an idea. That's not in here. That's an idea to put in the plan is what I'm hearing. So to have you folks talk to your circles and friends and have us, you know, all try to work, that would be great. We can move to the strategies and actions if you want to, just to see where we're on base, like Cholwe said, and where we're way off base. Are we okay with that? Liz, did you have one thing to say before we kind of
just one, and then just on the why we need to do better. The last words to say still extremely embarrassingly high. A suggestion I would make is they are still unacceptable.
Yeah.
Because just saying that they're extremely embarrassing high, it's like, well, yeah, they're high, but if we make them unacceptable, that means we're going to change.
Good. Okay, great. And to note that we have some folks working on that data right now. There's more racially desegregated data than there ever was a few years ago. It's changing every year. So that will be more available, and we'll get that to you in the coming weeks and months. Okay. Okay, strategies and actions. I'm all ears on things that you think, hey, this is at least good. We want to keep that, but scrap the rest, or, you know, I'll just kind of be quiet and listen to what you have to say about at least what's put in here. Like I said, this kind of came from 2040, from some of our conversations actually in this group, Human Rights Commission. But again, we need this shopped around and changed. So I'll just listen to what you guys have to say.
I could say right now, reading the first one on the strategy number 1, create a system for bringing human rights complaints to the city. We don't even have a complaint process. So how can we do that?
I think that's that what meant to say. We need that process that you guys have been, you know, that the Human Rights Commission has been asking for. Does that make sense, Michael? I probably have to, we'll word that differently, but that's, yeah, okay.
Can I ask with that, this is Doug, when you bring those complaints forward, like what's the goal with that? Like, you're going to bring these complaints forward. What do they want done with them? So like having a place to report them, great. I think our job as a committee would be to say, like, what's the next step then? Like what's the point of reporting them if it's just a place to write them down and great. So I don't know what people's goal would be for that. That should be my question is, if you're going to have a place to report them, what do you want done with them?
And Liz Choloway and Michael are part of the Human Rights Commission. They might want to weigh in. So Liz, then Choloway.
Because Doug, the number one way to start a healing process is to have your story validated. And this is a way to validate somebody's story.
Yep.
Choloway?
Yeah. And I was gonna just say the same thing. I think people want to be heard. They want to be heard. There's a lot of things going on, but you don't have anywhere to go to talk about it. That weighs in on you. That's how people come up with perceptions of the society, a community, a city, because this happened to me, but I didn't have anywhere to go. As well as if this is heard, if you go with a complaint to the city, if this had to happen, maybe the city would, or whatever the council decide to do with this one, whether there will be a third party in it, somebody might be able to say, okay, in your situation, I would go, this is how I would deal with it. You know, can I have a direction? Or if we can handle you, we can help you, those people can help you, maybe you need to seek an attorney. Just a place to be heard. It's feedback. In my business, and I'm sure everyone else's business, we feed on feedback, and that's how we do better. But if we don't have this put in place, how are we going to get our feedback as a city? How are we going to know how we are doing in the community? How do we weigh ourselves to say Red Wing is number 98 or the first one? How do we place ourselves? How do we know when we are doing right or wrong? The only way, just feedback, just like we do to our children and our students. We need a place where we can get feedback. And I don't think it's going to be easy, but we need to be heard. People need to be heard. I need to be heard myself. And that's why I do need to be heard. If nobody else does, I do need to be heard. And maybe I don't want you to give me food, which is the least we're going to want. But we want to be heard. That, yes, I feel you. Yes, you went validation, like Liz said. That's what we're looking for. This is not going to solve every problem. But I feel a lot of people will be able to let steam. And the reason people come boiled up is because they don't have anywhere to talk about these issues. I get issues thrown to me. There's nothing I can do but go home and cry. Oh, maybe if I cry, I'll go back to the community and smile. But maybe I'll just go in cocoon and hate Red Wing and hate this person and hate this person. If we're going to build this community, we are going to need to be heard. And so that those people who don't really think there's something going on in this community can also have an idea to say, really, I didn't know if I did this to somebody, somebody can be hurt. There's a lot of unintentional hurting of somebody else in the community, in the school district, everywhere. People don't know, kids don't know they're hurting each other by saying this. People in the community don't know that they're hurting me by saying this to me. But I think with this, maybe we can save one. And that's why we need it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we'll reword that and we'll work with the Human Rights Commission to write that one. It sounds like, yeah. So, you know, are there any under that first strategy? Do you feel like that first strategy is helpful to have? Acknowledge harm and build a system of accountability. Yeah, okay, okay. Oh, Choloway, did you want to say something to that or you? Okay. So you'll see that there are things like an acknowledgement statement, that human rights complaints process. Again, these are things that will not just be done at the end of today, but if there are things that you want to throw out that would maybe go under that category, any thoughts or ideas? Or things that you would think just from even looking at it now that you would scrap? And again, some are pretty broad, like support initiatives and collect and share the true and diverse history of Red Wing. That's something that we've heard kind of quite a bit over the last year. So that doesn't say we're going to do that by X, Y, Z. It's more of a broad statement that says the community would benefit from figuring out whether it's a partnership with other entities, finding funding for a large history project. That could be, it could happen in any kind of a way. And the other one is supporting projects. I know the HRC does this already with engaging conversations. Kind of saying as a city that we do support that and think it's important, but. Liz?
Under the support initiatives for the true and diverse history, I don't know if there needs to be something in there to say like who's going to come up with that, because I know even just in the HRC discussing different things, there's different versions of Red Wing's history. So how do we know the voices are, you know, the stories that we're being told are all being validated, and there's going to be some conflict in those stories. You know, because just in the HRC, there's been different discussions going on of different things that have happened, or first in the community and that type of thing.
Okay. Yep, good points. Good points. Sam, do you have any thought? Oh, Choloway.
On that one, I do understand it's very, very important for us to know the history of Red Wing for our sake and our children's sake. But I also want to say that, yes, we do understand that history back then, there were now people like me here in Red Wing. We understand that, and we acknowledge that, and we do appreciate that. But the fact is, this time around, we are creating history. This is history. The current now is going to be history. So we have to come back to that history and also be able to understand that, yes, this is the history of it, but at one point, this will be talked to about history. So now we are here. It's also great as we are talking about this to create our new story, our current, which is we exist. And the community coming around to acknowledge that we do exist. So while we're talking about the history, we should be working on the current so that we can create the future history, which involves all people. And maybe at that point, all this advisory won't be needed. I hope that.
Okay. This is something I wonder with strategy 2 and building a more inclusive decision-making process. I wonder if with this plan, if it makes sense to have you all come up with questions that you would want to ask your friends, your neighbors, your spouses, your siblings, your parents. What would you ask them? You know, you all know people who live in Red Wing. They've lived in Red Wing a long time. For many of you, I would think that one way we can get to really the meat of the plan. And by the way, I guess the reason when someone says, well, why even put together a plan? Why even do that? I guess it's because in government, we really don't do a lot unless we have a plan. I mean, that is the deal. If we don't have a plan on paper, it doesn't get done. So, but how that plan gets put together is really, really important, like you just said. So I wonder if, you know, in the next week, I don't know if you think this is a good idea or not. Would you be willing to think about questions you might ask people? And would you be willing to spend some time asking folks? You know, I don't know. It just seems like we as government can do it, but we also really need community members to really get out there, especially when we're maybe in a little bit of a COVID. I think once we get to summer and we can go to where people are at, we can go to the pool, we can go to the parks, we've been to churches, I've planted myself in a daycare and, you know,
Don't forget barbecue.
yeah, that's right. Will you host one, please, Michael? We'll pay for it. Good, good.
Me and Steve.
Okay. Because that's the way we're probably going to get to it. Would you agree? I don't know. What do you think? Sam, how would you get this out and about? How would you start?
Are we talking specifically about
Just in
strat-
general.
Oh, in general? Okay.
You know, not to say, do you like strategy 2? Do you like strategy 3? But just to have a conversation about what's working for you in Red Wing and what's not. What in a perfect world, what does Red Wing look like to you if you got to just wave a magic wand? What kind of community would you want to live in? What would this look like? You know, those kind of. Would people have those conversations?
I could have those conversations. I'm struggling with this whole concept tonight simply for the fact that I see a lot of words pertaining to building relationships and connecting and trusting with people of color in our community, and I don't see that happening in my eyes. I mean, we have Lexi here and Michael and Cholwe and Yadira normally, and Thomas, people of color in our community that are here, but are they here because they were brave enough to come use their voices and tell us what they want? Or because somebody else thought they'd be brave enough to, speak up? What about, I mean, what about the rest of the people of color in this community that don't trust our government or our police, that don't want to come out and tell you how they're feeling or what they need or want, or what they think needs to be changed? How are we connecting with those people who refuse to get involved because they don't trust the process? And I'm just struggling with that, because the way I see it, the system is not broken and it doesn't need to be fixed. It's working exactly the way it was designed to work. So, I'm struggling with answers for a lot of this, because I just don't see how is anybody, whether it be any of us or the city council or anybody in our city government, going to reach out to the people who don't really want to have that connection because their bridges were burnt long ago in this community.
So that's why I'm wondering, without putting it on people, because that's probably what this sounds like, is Sam, can you go out? Would you be willing to have that conversation with some of the people that trust you, that know you, and to bring those answers forward? It's just a question, but that's sometimes where when you have trusted people in the community and trusted in their own communities and families, you will have a better conversation than I will, of course. So I'm asking if team members here or people that you know are willing to have those conversations, to ask if they were here, what would they bring forward? What could you on their behalf bring forward?
Right. No, I would definitely be comfortable. I think most of us in this group probably would be. We're here for a reason. I'm talking in this plan, like the actual plan, like going forward. I see a lot of those words being used, and this plan doesn't apply to me. I'm not supposed to be out making relationships and connecting connections and doing all that. This is the city of Red Wing is supposed to be doing that. You know, just a small group of us we're not going to reach everyone. And that's where my concerns are, is what can we do to reach these people who need to be heard? And I'm glad that the people who are in this group are here today. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying Mike is not the only one. Alexis is not the only one. It goes way farther than them, you know, that they might have less experience or more experience with how they've been treated, good or bad, in Red Wing. And I just think that reaching these people who are not comfortable with our city government is most important. If we're going to use these words in this draft, it's just, I'm struggling that's my thoughts. That's all I got, really.
Thank you. Cholwe?
Okay, I do hear you some. But what I'm going to ask is the 4 people you named on this group who are here, who have an opportunity to speak out about their experiences. If we can, from the 2.8% we have seen on this chart, if every one of us can try to reach to somebody and ask some questions, maybe not exactly the way they are asked, but in a comfortable way that we can get some stuff. I think if that's what we have to do, I'm okay to doing it. I'm not sure about Michael and you and everybody else, but if this is what we need, if we need to kind of have an idea of the questions we can ask the community to get to where we need to be, it's like that man on the beach throwing one fish at a time. Since we are here, I'm here not because somebody told me, maybe before I knew what I was doing, but now I have an idea. I'm here because my heart is boiling and my heart is jumping up and down. If we can save a little bit of what is left of Red Wing for us, I think we should. And for the people who are not trusting the city, just like everyone else, maybe this is an opportunity, because then it's not the city asking them, it's Michael and Samantha, and just because you care. That's what I'm thinking. I think if we can come up with some questions which will be comfortable to take in the community so that we can get a little bit of feedback. If people want to do that, I think I'll be open to asking those questions. And I don't know, and just so you know, Samantha, people are not open to me as well, because what do I know? I've been here 4 years. I've heard that being said in the community, but I'm standing up to say, I'm feeling what I'm feeling. You see, people don't know me because I'm new. Yes, I am new, but but I'm here opening my mouth because I feel what I'm feeling. So if we can go out and ask on my behalf anyway, I wouldn't mind to do that. If we are suggesting questions, if we can think of questions and send to you, Michelle, and the questions can be validated to say, yes, go ask them, and we need to do it to achieve our goal, I will do it. I don't know about the rest of the 3 people who were named there.
And it can be everybody, you know, I think we kind of need everybody. Is that something that people support, coming up with some questions? Do you want to toss them out right now before, you know, if you're sitting down with your grandma, your best friend, what would you ask them? And anybody can answer, you know, but when we're trying to get at what should be changed, what questions would you want to ask? Choloway, you got one?
Questions. I mean, first of all, you want to get comfortable to get in a conversation. Maybe one of the questions is, are you from Red Wing? Were you born here? How long have you been here? Have you seen any changes from the time you came to now? What are the changes? Are the changes good or bad? What can we do to improve? We are looking for feedback.
Thank you. Others? Thomas, you've been quiet and you're not on my screen, so I don't want to forget about Alexis or Thomas or.
Oh, I'm just observing and listening here and taking notes, and
Yep.
I'll chime in shortly. I
Okay.
promise.
Yeah,
All right,
I'm observing too. I'm listening. I'm here, but
Okay. Nope. I just want to make sure, you know, we don't forget about you here. Michael, do you have thoughts if you're sitting around with somebody? What would you ask? And they don't have to be real complicated. I think Choloway said a lot right there.
It's I've already been asking questions to people. I mean, it's like one of the biggest answers, like I've been asking people, like, what would you like to see in Red Wing? Biggest thing, the number one answer I have gotten is something for the youth, like a teen center or something, or a youth center or something. Just, I mean, I was with one of my mentees today, and he was saying how bad he hates walking around town, but there's nothing else to do but to walk around town. I mean, which is all fine and dandy, getting a workout in, but he says he hates walking around town for the simple fact, he literally told me this, he sees a police officer almost everywhere he goes. I mean, I don't know the thinking behind that, but it's concerning that would be one of the reasons why he would want to. But my biggest thing I've been getting from people is a teen center, something to get these kids involved doing and you know.
Good. Sam?
I guess one of my questions would be, who are the people you trust in this community? Just to get a better idea of maybe why some people aren't being heard, maybe because they're limited on people they feel safe around.
Yep. Good. That's good.
I've talked to a couple of business owners here in town, And one of their biggest issues is just some acknowledgement that there's people of color with businesses here in town. You don't really hear a lot about it. I mean, I see them, but I don't hear nothing about them. And you know, they're like, well, the city expects us to pay this. You know, the whole, what is it, Chamber of Commerce, however that goes, that whole situation. But they're still not getting no support from them. Like example, I keep hearing about this West End district or whatever it's called on Old West Main, whatever their group they call it. And and I love what they're doing because they're supporting each other. I love that concept. But my question is, there is quite a few Hispanic owned businesses up and down that street, and they're a part of that group, but they get no acknowledgement.
Oh.
So that's, that's a question that's been brought to my attention.
Good. Okay. So if we put together like 4 or 5 questions to start a conversation, obviously you want to do it in a really conversational way. So you're not going to, you don't want to read questions and things like that, but it's helpful to have sort of a similar, at least, starting point. I could send a couple of the things that were said tonight. You can email back and we'll go by email so that we have sort of a starting list of questions so that you could start asking right away. And I realize lots of you, maybe most of you, have tons of conversations all the time about this. It's not like, oh, this is the first conversation we're going to have about race in Red Wing. But this would be, I guess, as a group, something that, so that when we hear what people are saying, that we can get that into the plan.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
So with the questions, I would suggest, just thinking about it here, if there's something wrong, you can't just fix half of the problem. So questions have to be for everyone, and when you ask, what do you want? Well, I want $1 million, so be more specific as to what we want to ask, but we can't sugarcoat the questions that we ask, and you can't be afraid to ask. It's nothing to hurt anybody. It's the bottom line is, once we get the questions out there and people give their true feelings, it's just understanding. But you have to know what's wrong to fix what's wrong.
Yeah. So a question for you guys. So we sometimes put out surveys, which are way different than sitting across and having a cup of coffee or, having a glass of wine with somebody and talking. But if we came up and this group came up with, let's say 5 questions or something, do you think that that is worth it to not only have it for conversations where people might be taking notes and sending those in? Do you think it's a good idea to put those out on an online survey so that people could put that out on their, I don't know, social media or something, so that people are answering that in that way? Michael.
I think this would be a good time to where maybe could coordinate with the HRC on this, because of what I can say is that one of the subcommittees I'm a part of, we're working on a survey type situation to bring around for the city. And because we're trying to work on doing this town hall meeting thing, town discussion thing. And during that time, we'll have a survey passed around. So I'd probably reach out to either Helen or even Red Heart about those questions and maybe coordinate something in that aspect.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. That's great. What are some other thoughts about that idea of social media or not? Is Does anybody have any thoughts on that? You don't have to, but just a gut feeling. Sam?
My initial reaction was I thought that'd be a good idea. I think it would get a lot of feedback. But thinking it through, the feedback might not be, I don't have a word for it, but might not be accurate. Or how do we know, you know, where the answers are coming from and who's responding?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's my question. We've got a lot of trolls on Facebook and the rest of the social media sites, so I don't know. That's rough. Initially, I thought yes, that'd be awesome, but thinking over it, I don't know if that's a good idea, in my opinion.
Right. What's the thought about would people be turned off or not? Sometimes on social media, it will say at the end, you know, do you live in the city of limits of Red Wing? Do you feel, you know, and have people put down their race or ethnicity, potentially their age. Some people that really turns them off. But in terms of responses, like what you're saying, Sam, it lets people know where people are coming from and their so I don't know. That's a thought. Does that change things, or what do you think about that, Sam, or other people? And we don't have to decide tonight, but I kind of want to know, gut check what you guys think.
I think that it helps a little bit, but it doesn't stop people from lying.
Okay.
I think for me, social media has really, over the last few years, has really diminished in a medium of true value. I mean, it's like a necessary evil, but it's one of those things where it's really hard to put a lot in what I'm seeing or the quality of responses that you get. I mean, I'm on it, but I don't put any type of I guess level of trust or value in the data that I get from it than I do from one-on-one conversations. And you know, sometimes you just need to get it out there, but there's really nothing like personal conversations. And I think like you said, having these one-on-one things is so much more valuable, not only because you can get kind of the emotion behind it, but you can get clarification. Where on a survey, it's just a yes, no, or whatever. But talking to somebody, you can say, well, why do you feel that way, or what do you mean by that, or is this what you're saying? Am I understanding it right? Because that's to me is the most important part when you can get that clarification. Because a lot of times that's people will say something and you interpret it one way, but that's really not what they were meaning if you dig a little bit deeper.
So do you think then if the idea would be maybe to not do social media, but to really go with the one-on-one and really focus on where people are at? So focusing on two things, really: trusted people in the community, trusted people who can have those conversations, and then also meeting people where they're at. It was a lot easier before COVID, but I think over time this summer we can do that. And so it may be finding places where people are, like Michael's going to host us all a barbecue and invite everybody. And it can also be not just special events. It can be places where people are already going. That's, that's another option. Cholwe?
I honestly think also there is a place we're not looking into. Some of the best answers and the truth comes from children, the youth. And we could do something with the schools where maybe we work with the school and see if they can say, oh, the 5 kids who are going to want to participate in a survey, they can have free McDonald's or something like that. kids really tell the truth like it is. They don't really, most of them don't care what you're gonna think about, but they will just tell you the way they see things. And I have been in groups where we've done surveys on racial equity on housing, you know, and kids were taught to draw. It was a drawing kind of competition. And if I had to bring the results of what we saw from there, was amazing and overwhelming. So I think if somehow we can incorporate these questions to the school age children and try to work with the school to see what we can do on that end, I think that would be great.
Great. It's a great idea. Okay. So from here, it's 7:23. Would you want to go through the rest of these strategies, or would you prefer not to? We can at least, I guess maybe we can just, this will kind of all be scrapped, but I guess I want to still, I'd like to kind of get your feedback on some of these things to see if we're even somewhat on base. If not every single action, because those are definitely going to change, but some of these larger strategies. Strategy 3 was, expanding the use of data. Like I mentioned before, and we talked about when we were talking policing policy, what data is racially desegregated? Are we looking at it? Are we learning from it? Is that something that the group as a whole agrees with, that the city of Red Wing would expand and utilize their use of data more? And you can give me a thumbs up, sideways, or down. I don't know if it's even that easy, but Sam is saying thumbs up. I see
What was the
thumbs up.
question again? I'm
Okay.
sorry.
If you agree with that, expanding the use of data as a strategy. Okay. So the group likes that. Lucy, do you have something to add to it?
Well, I just had a question because I know we talked about prior, like starting to gather data that we don't have yet. So like, I agree to expand the use of it, but I think there's a lot of data that we might not be able to, that's really pertinent to this that we don't have from as far as like the stops and all that kind of stuff. We had talked about getting that from the police, but now that's all where?
I think what we can do is try to find, we can see what we do have, I think, and then what we really don't. And like you said, we don't have that data, as far as I know, in terms of when we stop people. We don't have a solid recommendation on that yet in terms of policing, but that's maybe where this comes in.
Okay.
Doug, did you have something?
Yeah, I gotta sign off here. I got some patients checking in, but just the last thing I'll say, and when I read through this whole thing, my biggest thing, like I emailed to you, was along with that data piece, show me where the systemic racism exists. The document makes a lot of claims that it's there. I think for a lot of the community, it needs to be sort of spelled out. Demonstrate these things to me. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I don't live that experience that some other people do. So show me where it is. Otherwise, I'm just going off of buzz phrases and catchwords, saying these things are there. It'd make it easier maybe to get a larger group of people behind it if we're able to demonstrate it. And part of that's in the data collection. But sorry, I gotta run. I got a couple patients checking in.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but my experience as a person of color is not a catchphrase or just another word. This is my life experience. I'm sorry that you haven't experienced what I've went through or other people of color went through, but I mean, that's kind of a little slap in the face to say it's just a catchphrase.
Well, it's written on paper that way, right? So demonstrate that. Get the data together. Share these stories. Let's talk about it. But right now, as it sits,
I've been sharing these stories for almost 30 years.
Okay. Good. Well, now we got a more public forum to do that. That's the point. I'm just saying, as far as comes to public policy, right?
People gotta listen though. I could talk till I'm blue in the face, but if that next person don't want to listen, I mean, That's not my problem. Or if they don't want to accept that I'm seeing injustices in my life through my eyes, and they don't want to accept that, that's not my problem.
Sure. I haven't known you for that long, right? We've had this committee for 9 meetings now. So this is the place, man. This is bring it forward so that as a part of this committee, I can understand those experiences. I've not talked to you about them. I've not heard about most of them. But anyway, I gotta run.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Cholwe. 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 Can you not hear me? You can hear me? Okay. Cholwe, go for it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Nope, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, you see this paper you gave us today? Everything ties in. I'll make it short. If we don't create what the human rights are talking about, how are you gonna know the numbers? Data don't lie, right? So how do you expect me to give you the data? What process, what procedure am I using in the city of Red Wing to bring you the data? This system we're talking about is gonna help to bring the data in. And that's why we have to implement some of these things so that we can come back to the data. Because, and Doug, I think Doug just said, and I didn't hear a lot of what he said, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not sure, that my internet was going off, but that's what I'm talking about. We want the data, we want to know, but if you cannot allow us or human rights to bring these complaints to you, how are you going to know what people are complaining about in Red Wing? You see, so these things tie up. If you guys tie the human rights not to do that, how is the city and the human rights going to collect data? How are you going to know who is complaining, who feels wronged, or who feels like there's racism, if you're not going to allow them to talk? Where is the platform? How are you going to count? You're just going to say, Chola said she went through this 1, 2, 3, 4. No, there are those people who are not able to be where I am today to speak for myself. And I cannot speak for them, but I know that they will use this system to be heard. And that's where the data is going to come from, I think. So all this thing is tied up, it's tied around. It's all one thing, one big thing. And even working one by one, these 12 members of this advisory, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it all ties in from one place to another. And we have how many months to do this? This is tied in. Data is needed. And yes, if you ask me, I think there is racism in Red Wing. Thank you.
Sarah?
I don't know how we can get people who don't want to see racism to see racism. I don't know how you get to that feeling of having conversations. Michael said, you know, he has his ear to the ground and is having conversations. And I think we're all having conversations with people that I love, saying, I don't feel comfortable walking into stores. I don't feel accepted. I don't feel safe. And when you have the predominant race saying, well, prove it to me. How do you prove how you're feeling in your gut? How do you have the city say we do this, yet store owners don't do anything about what's happening? And I don't want to say that I'm hopeless, but how do you do that? I don't know the answer to that. To go somewhere that is tangible, I do think that as we're having these conversations, it is really important to gather demographic data of who's giving their answers. Is this, what age group is this? Is this, what race of person is sharing their story? And I think another question to add to that is, do you feel safe, or where do you feel safe? Where do you feel accepted in having conversations and listening to stores that people feel safe and accepted going into versus places that don't feel that way, I think is an important part of that conversation.
Good. Okay. Good. Let's go to, we've got 4, 5, 6, and 7. It's 7:33, and I want to leave a little bit of time at the end, but I think it is helpful to hear what you guys are thinking about these larger strategies, like Cholaway said, and how they fit together. Strategy 4, engage more people who are not often heard. There are a lot of things that need to happen around that, and we want to talk more about how we can engage people. I think today we spent a little bit of time talking about, at least for this, or at least what I think I was hearing is for this particular outreach and communication and engagement, that it really is those one-on-one conversations and working with people who are trusted in communities, so people can speak where they feel safe. They don't have to give names, but we could try to collect some demographic information. If we can move on, because I do, this is a topic that we need to delve into more. Would you like to dig into engagement more, or do you want to move into these other 3 areas to get those before we're done? Are you okay with moving to number 5? But I don't want to skip over engagement. That's what I do. We need to learn how to do, my job better. Is there someone who wants to, before we move on, throw out some ideas on engagement? Because we're going to dig deeper into that. How can the community as a whole, departments and otherwise, do better? Steve. And then Liz.
I think just reading through these earlier, I think this one is one of the most important ones. This is how we find out how people feel and what they think and how to change things. So I think, and like Thomas said several meetings ago, we're not going to solve this issue in Red Wing. That's an issue worldwide. But what we want to do is listen to people and see how we can start to change. And we got to get the people who way on the left who say, oh, there's no issues here, to people way on the right saying that I don't trust anybody, I don't trust the police, I don't trust the city, I don't trust anybody, and won't want to be engaged to help solve the problem. It's the people in the middle who are going to have to get together to help change those other people. And if not change, just let them know that we're working on it. So I feel this is very important.
Okay.
Hey man, I just had to jump in. I'm sorry, I didn't see anybody's hand, so please forgive me for just chiming in, but I agree with you there. And just a quick thought on trying to engage this thing. There's been something on my heart called Dear Neighbor, and it's basically a gathering where, the community comes together. That would be one way to interact. And I know it's not safe now with COVID, but we're talking later on in the summer because things have to be planned. But, again, being uncomfortable around people, whether you're uncomfortable in the store or being made to feel uncomfortable, or even the cashier is uncomfortable by, someone of a color coming into the store and feeling, terrified or whatever it is. Those are the things we need to understand why. And so it comes to acceptance, but it comes to understanding, goes back to understanding. And, and the questions, they are tough, but you can't sugarcoat being hit with a 2x4 as to being tapped with it if you're being hit with it. So, and again, I'm sorry to throw it out there like that, but, we have to be absolutely 100 what we're trying to fix. And it's not even trying to fix, because everybody, people that dislike Black people or Black people that dislike white people, maybe you'll never change that instant, but we can plant the seed in the children because it will grow and it will die out one day. Maybe not in our lifetimes, but it will. So anyway, back to Dear Neighbor. Yeah. So something to think about, just a community gathering. Michael can barbecue. I can provide some live music, you know, and get to know your neighbor, you know, because we work with each other all the time. You know, we do business with each other. Now we have to be inclusive on everything. So I'm sorry I went a little long, but there you go.
No, that's great. That's great. Who had their, okay, Liz?
Just to kind of jump on what Sarah was saying there, I think when we look at what government and city staff we bring together, to be very intentional that you know, we're asking people whose voices are not often heard. We definitely need to bring those city officials and paid staff or paid city officials who believe in listening to their stories and aren't doing it just as a job. Like, well, I have to do this at 2 o'clock today, because you're dealing with people whose voices aren't normally heard.
Right. Thanks, Liz. Oh, Sarah?
In thinking about getting to those voices, I think that number one, going to churches is like the easy way, but getting those unheard voices are not going to be in the churches. So I just think going outside of that is important. But I've also been wondering about, like, is there a way to use service providers in town and do some contracting to get to the people that they serve? And I feel like those folks are often the overrepresented folks that are needing extra support in our community, but I genuinely don't know what that looks like with confidentiality and things like that. And then I also think about just, we're a group of 12 diverse people who know different groups. And do you just like kind of spider web your way out, starting with a core group of people who care, and work your way out and see how many people you get to that way?
Right. Good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We will be coming back to engagement soon. The fifth is create a workplace culture within the city of Red Wing that prioritizes equity. Strategy 6, I'm going to read these last three. Strategy 6 is increase equity in policies, public services, public spaces, and programming. And strategy 7 is increase the quality of life outcomes for BIPOC residents by increasing equity in economic development and housing. We have about 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm just going to throw those out there and see what lands with you, what doesn't, what you think is radically missing. We don't even need to go into the actions right now if, you know, obviously if you don't want to, but within this framework, it is really government-y speak. So but some of the things that are in there, we can start with strategy 5. This is more obviously an internal City of Red Wing thing. Thoughts on that?
So,
and like you said, these words, it's the hard part is actually implementing. So a lot of words here. Liz?
is this one dealing with just the actual city structure, the City of Red Wing
Yes.
structure?
Yes,
not
the
community
organization.
of Red Wing.
Right, the governmental structure, the government itself, purely
Okay.
government, how they hire. Yeah.
Okay, then never, yeah, that answers that. And then no, then my suggestion isn't relevant.
Okay. Okay.
Just gonna say one, I think that's a really good goal. Reaching people, I think, the spot in like
Wait, Corey, repeat
Please.
that because you're going in and out on us.
I see my connection is a little bit bad here. One of the the things is I said I'm in a unique position, all demographics, working in food, because everybody, like, so if we maybe some of the initiatives get into like the food retail, like grocery, pretty much everybody owns to, you know, the but the
Corey, we can't hear
boards.
you. Can you move maybe a little bit? I don't know if that will help. I know you're talking about food and working in retail.
I can email, I'll send a message.
Was it that we're good, that you reach a lot of people by being in food because everybody needs it?
At the different, yeah.
Maybe it's
My
working.
connection is going up. Is it going up? I've
Try
got
one more
connection
time,
issues
quick.
here.
Try really quick because I think it's working right now.
I said if we get maybe at the grocery stores, like the message boards in the front of the stores, notifying people of opportunity that maybe aren't online, because everybody, I mean, I reach such a huge diverse group there, and I think the other stores probably would too. So we might be able to get the word out a little bit more, because they're going to be getting their food somewhere. So those are kind of an easy place to reach a lot of people.
Good. Great. Okay. Any thoughts on number 5 before going to number 6? Sam?
It's not a thought on number 5. I actually wanted to just quick jump to number 7 because I have a small family thing I have to deal with at the moment, so I'm gonna have to leave after this. I just wanted to mention that maybe if we're gonna be asking questions or thinking of questions to ask, I think that types of establishments in Red Wing, or what people ask what they would like or want, would be beneficial. I think that kind of ties into what Thomas said earlier about being more specific about what people want to see in Red Wing when you're asking questions. I know personally, somewhere where I could take my daughter to get her hair cut and feel comfortable would be wonderful. Not to have to leave the city of Red Wing to do that. She is 6 and has had one haircut, and she did it herself.
Okay.
I think that would be beneficial, but thanks for listening. I've got to go.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
See you later. Okay, good. I've added that to the survey questions. Under number 6, yeah, Sarah.
Sorry, can I piggyback on number 7? Apparently it's skipping number 6.
Yeah.
Thinking about housing and access to affordable housing, I feel like every time we've seen opportunities coming up, there's a really loud group of people saying, not in my backyard, must have 2 parking spaces, not in this neighborhood. And then the really loud voices get heard, and then the lack of housing continues to thrive in Red Wing. And so figuring out a way that other voices can be heard and the need can be expressed, so that it's not just, I don't want that in my neighborhood, I don't want cars parked on the street, things like that, that we are actually caring about our neighbor and having a place for our neighbors to be.
Okay. Yes. Good. Liz?
And I think to add to that a little bit is to look at some of those regulations, because I know that the 2 parking spots, is that even necessary? I mean, a lot of times when we're looking at affordable housing, it's a single parent. Do they really need 2 parking spaces? No. Probably not. Could we go with 1.5? Could we change it to 1 1/4? I mean, look at these regulations that are being cumbersome for these properties. and making sure that they fit for the project that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. Those on number 6 kind of cover a lot. 6 and 7 both cover a ton. 6, that first one is really looking at policies and practices and using race disaggregated data when possible. The next one was more public art and culture projects. That is also slowly happening, but to really reflect our more diverse community. The third one was inclusive programming, especially for BIPOC youth. The city can do a lot and then is somewhat limited on programming. So there are things listed there, library, Sheldon, board and commissions, park naturalists, things that the city can do. And they can also support more collaborative efforts for folks who really do more of that. Liz?
So on number 5, I know a lot of times when I, talk to people like my, husband's right now having a meeting with Native American Parent Committee. A lot of times it's hard to get people of color here to work here because they don't feel welcome. But if we partnered with, if the city partnered with like the schools and that type of thing, and maybe came up with a community outreach to people of color to advertise for positions, to really show them that, we're advertising for an English teacher and we're also advertising for a, city administrator on the same website so that they can see that it is different, all the different agencies and people in the community looking for people of color to come in, because we wanted in all the positions in the community, not just the city and not just the school, but make it one.
Okay. Good. Good. Good ideas. Before we close this piece out, is there anything under the strategies, under the real big stuff that you thought was missing? Not saying we're not going to add them later, but was there anything when you came into this meeting that you wanted to say about specific strategies that you haven't been able to say? Okay. And we will also do more with the planning and evaluating progress because, like Cholo was saying, what have we done? Are we evaluating? Are we sharing? Part of that will be, anyway, that's a different conversation, but we will do work on that. And I also, through that Red Wing report card, there should be some good data and showing what the community is working on and where we're doing well, where we're not doing well. Okay. I think for the last few minutes, well, let me summarize here and then I want to get your thoughts for the next meeting. What I hear is that I have a list right now of questions that I will send out to all of you and get your feedback on them. What did we miss? What should we change? You can get back to me on that, and then I'll resend you the list very early next week so that everybody has a list of questions that we can go out and ask. And right now we would focus, at least that's what I hear from the group, is that we would focus right now on one-on-one, see how many people we reach, and we would document who we talk to and who we don't. We would also focus on the youth and maybe you have thoughts. I'll ask a question out there, but there are some ways that we could potentially partner with the school so that, and other organizations, maybe youth outreach and some others who would also ask, the folks that they're people who are really working with youth on the ground. So again, using those trusted sources. I see Michael nodding and I know, all the mentees and mentors. Yeah. So the idea is that we have a small set of questions that really get to the heart of what people would want to see in their community, where they feel safe, where they don't. Some brief demographic questions, so we're clear about who is answering those questions. No names, but some key demographic information. And we will take a stab at it, and we will we'll know more at our next meeting what we have found. So we'll communicate by email in between this meeting and next, so that we have some information before our next meeting. Do you have ideas on what you would want this next meeting to be? What we said last time, you know, what I heard was, hey, we really want to start, and like what Cholwe said, start implementing, start digging in. And that the team would like to really steer that and where you would want to go, instead of it being steered by, you know, myself or anybody else. So I'd want to hear from you some of those ideas.
Just say
Thomas,
a
then
word.
Liz. Yep.
The thing I've always said is that we should finish something, basically stick to something, set a foundation. So if we're going to work on engaging and learning what really is wrong, but in the process, we can implement things that will help, you know, in other areas, you know, financially, you know, being included, you know, all kind of things, jobs, whatever it comes to. But we have to just set the foundation somewhere, and we can't shift every meeting to a new subject and not take care of the main problem. And, you know, it's not going to be easy, but we have to do it. Thank you.
Liz?
I would just like to propose, I know a lot of other commissions and groups in Red Wing, like the school board, the city council, HRC, they have youth involvement. I would like to propose that we bring on a youth or two of color into this team to get their input, to get their feelings and views, so that we are making choices that are progressive and meeting our youth needs, and that their voices are being heard, instead of just like, let's let them be a part of this. We have a Black Student Union now at the high school that's going. We have, you know, a Native American group. I mean, let's bring in, you know, we've got Hispanic Outreach, I'm sure, that could give us a couple names. Bring in a couple youth to have them be a part of this advisory team.
Great. All right. Let me propose that. I think that's a great idea. Okay. So I want to make sure that, you know, when I hear Cholwe saying we want to implement something, but also I get what Thomas is saying, where we don't want to just be scattered, and we want to really focus on something and get that done. Do you feel like our time between now and then would be really, I mean, we'd all have homework, so we'd be talking to folks, you know, we would be making that a priority, and then coming back and really looking at that, what we found, what we learned. Did we see any areas where things coalesced, you know, where we were hearing the same things, and maybe other areas where we could go? Did we find that we weren't getting a certain age of person? Did we find that we were missing a certain population? Does that make sense to you to focus on this, getting information on what people are really feeling in this community and having a discussion about that? Does that feel good to you for the next meeting?
I think that's a good idea. And I just was thinking about something about housing. So if we focus, I'm just saying, if we shift away from what we're doing and we accidentally shift over to talk about a housing shortage, if we don't fix the problem, you know, some people probably won't get rented to because of fear that, you know, a stereotype that the house will have parties or, you know, whatever else. So if we fix the problem again between just knowing, understanding.
Okay. Okay. Well, good. So you should get the questions from me tomorrow, and those will just be the draft. let me know your feedback. I'll send you a little email. And then by Monday or Tuesday, we should have the list of questions. I would say by Monday, we should have kind of the final list of questions. So if everybody can kind of get back when you can, I know everybody's really busy, but we'll try to get those questions. So then we have a full month to really, or 3 weeks. It's not very long and it won't be the full amount of time, but we could get started. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if everybody kind of knows what we're, okay, great. Okay, everybody. It's 8 o'clock. I super appreciate all of you spending your time, and I missed you, and we're back together. Okay, have a good night, everybody. Oh, Michael, sorry. I thought you were saying, I thought you were saying yes. Did you have something you want to
I
say?
was just actually wondering, this is totally off base, off subject. I think Mr. Blaine is already gone. It was,
Well, that was my bad. My bad. I thought you were like, hey, see you later.
are you still there, Steve?
I am.
It's just a quick question, man. I'm a part of the design team for this natural park that's being built at Twin Bluff this summer. And I'm kind of curious, man, what are you going to do with that big tree you got in the yard?
Come and get it if you want it. I got no
Really?
plan to get rid of it, yeah.
Do you think you could email me your number and we could talk more about that?
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
you bet.
Awesome. Love it. See, when we meet in person, then we get to have these like, you know, walk to the parking lot conversations and good stuff happens. Okay. Are we saying goodbye now?
I don't know.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Thank you.